Hey folks, I'm Brendan, and you're watching the Overqualified Henchman. A few videos back, I said that there's never been a better time to get into the Transformers fandom. A bold claim, for certain very specific definitions of bold. This week, I'm going to be making my case with the help of the big mama jama herself, Victorion. Victorion is the second fan-built Transformer, which means Hasbro used online voting to determine everything from her color scheme, to her components' alt modes, to her name, and yes, her gender. She's the first female combiner in the traditional Scramble City style. Technically, there was this mini-con combiner named Heavy Metal, but trust me, this is a bigger deal. The fans voting to make Victorion and her component robots ladies is particularly significant because the first fan-built Transformer vote resulted in Windblade, also a lady. Okay, so there's a few more robot toys on the shelves assigned female pronouns. Why should you care? Well, get ready, hench people, because we're about to get contextual. That may have sounded cooler in my head. I've talked before about how complicated Transformers lore can be, so this is going to be a pretty streamlined version, and I'll trust you guys to dig a little deeper if you're interested. Fair enough? The 80s Transformers cartoon belongs to that golden age of half-hour toy commercials, which were pretty heavily targeted along gender lines. The thing is, like, the first 5 minutes of the G.I. Joe cartoon give us Scarlet being a badass fighter pilot, and along with Lady J and the Baroness on Cobra's side, she was always shown as capable and often put in a leadership position. Even He-Man, the franchise with the name that definitely wasn't compensating for anything, gave us Teela and Evil Lyn, and then the She-Ra spin-off, which flipped the script and gave us a team of female heroes with only a couple of men. While those portrayals had their ups and downs, the same goes for most 80s cartoons ostensibly just for boys. The Transformers, on the other hand, were all dudes. The closest thing they had to a recurring female character was Carly, who does not count, because for the last time, nobody watches Transformers for the humans, Michael. This has led some iterations of the franchise and a sizable portion of the fandom to insist that Cybertronians do not have gender, which is just flat out wrong for two main reasons. Firstly, because I kinda lied a minute ago. Female Transformers do show up in the pre-movie cartoon once. We find out that a group of female Autobots has been waging a guerrilla war on Cybertron for the last, million years or so. Is Moonracer the best? Yes, and I will fight you. Apparently Shockwave hasn't actually figured out what was going on in that whole million years, because when he finally catches some security footage of them, he goes, "Female Autobots? I thought they were extinct." We're just gonna skim over the use of the word extinct there, because that's weird. The second reason is that even without establishing that female Cybertronians exist, Transformers would still have gender. When you've got a character with a male voice actor who uses male pronouns and is drawn with recognizably masculine body proportions, they're not genderless. They're coded as male. Okay, so that means the lack of female characters in the original cartoon is notable, but again, who cares? I do, obviously. I thought that was clear by now. That lack of inclusion was such a missed opportunity because in the best traditions of science fiction, there are some topics that are just easier to deal with when you're talking about a group of inorganic alien warriors who have brought their civil war to Earth and fight using a variety of physical transformations and combination. Basically, there was a ton of storytelling potential just left on the table. Until... Okay, here's the part where we're really gonna skim over some stuff that deserves more attention in a later video. Instead, we're gonna fast forward all the way to 2005 and the beginning of IDW's Transformers comics. Basically, these stories were heavily based on the G1 versions of the characters, but set in the modern day, and pulling elements from all the other versions of Transformers. If you're a comics fan, this was pretty similar to what Marvel was doing with its Ultimate Universe around the same time. And they were okay, but this was one of those iterations that decided, nope, Transformers could only be dudes. Which presented a bit of a problem, because Transformers basically runs on nostalgia, so they had to include RCE eventually. Listen, I don't want to get into it too much, but imagine Wolverine's Weapon X origin, but rewritten to be just as transphobic as possible. Yeah, I realize I'm not really selling you on it yet, but stay with me, because the part we're actually interested in is Phase 2. You can see the beginnings of Phase 2 in Last Stand of the Records by Nick Roche and James Roberts, but it officially started in 2012 with the death of Optimus Prime. The guy dies a lot, but in this case it was metaphorical. This branches off into two series, Transformers More Than Meets the Eye by James Roberts, and Transformers Robots in Disguise by John Barber. It goes like this: the war is finally over, the Autobots are victorious. But as noted lyricist George Washington once said, Winning was easy, young man. Governing's harder. We get to see the beginnings of the Decepticon cause as a workers' revolt against a deeply classist society. And how do you think the defeated members of that army feel about their place in the New World Order? Then there's all the non-affiliated Cybertronians who left the planet rather than pick a side, and are wondering why the Autobots should get to be in charge now. If you like the shifting alliances of Game of Thrones or the claustrophobic politics of Battlestar Galactica, you should check out Barber's Robots in Disguise. But things really get going when we finally meet Windblade. It would have been easy for Hasbro to just make the fan-built toy and leave it at that, but instead they got Margaret Scott to write her book and turned her into a major part of the comics universe. See, Windblade is from Caminus, one of the long-lost but recently rediscovered Cybertronian colony worlds. Caminus still has gender, which Cybertron somehow lost in the ancient past, and they're also a theocracy. Because of their beliefs, they see Optimus, a living Prime, as a holy figure, and there's no way that could possibly end badly, right? Windblade would be worth checking out for the story, even if it weren't for Sarah Stone's gorgeous, super expressive art. A female comic book character with a female creative team? It's so crazy, it just might work. Now, I try not to play favorites, but the other half of Phase 2 is Robert's More Than Meets the Eye, and it's my favorite. Forget stories about giant robots, forget comic book stories. This is some of the best storytelling, some of the best writing I have ever come across, without hyperbole. It's got the sense of humor of Red Dwarf, the off-the-wall adventure of Doctor Who. It's got love stories to make you cheer one moment and put down the book and have a good cry the next. It has pathos and tragedy somehow without losing its whimsy. Here's the pitch. Rodimus, the shallowest Autobot of them all, gathers together a group of misfits to go search for the Knights of Cybertron, who may not exist, and almost immediately they get lost in space. The vampire's only the second worst thing in the basement. You will never guess what's in the briefcase. You can't trust Getaway, and whatever you do, if you hear someone whistling the Empyrean Suite, run and don't stop. And here's where the promise of Transformers concept finally pays off, because these would be great stories even if they weren't about giant car robots. But they are about giant car robots, and that lets you do stuff that you couldn't do otherwise. These are characters who are functionally immortal and have been fighting for millions of years. Even with the war theoretically over, whether you're an Autobot, a Decepticon, or purposely unaligned, carries a ton of cultural weight. Take Cyclonus, who even though he fought the Autobots, insists that does not make him a Decepticon. Or Tailgate, who was basically in a coma throughout the entire war, but upon waking up with it over, is still pressured into choosing a side. Listen, do you want thrilling heroics and the horror of war? Springer has you covered. Do you want an exploration of the nature of identity and important lessons about semicolons? Ultra Magnus can deal with you now. Do you want political maneuvering, backstabbing, and chess masters playing with people's lives? Starscream and Prowl have you covered. Do you want sitcom references? You want Swerve. Do you want mysterious numbers and strange clues? You want Skids. Do you want a tragic love story? You want Rewind. I'm serious here. I'm warning you right now. You will cry. Do you want an extended metaphor for the intersectionality between women and immigrants finding a place for themselves? Only that place is a city that is also a giant robot? Chromie and Windblade have you covered. Listen, I can't say enough good things. Head to your library, pick up the trades. You'll thank me. If you do get a chance to check out IDW's Transformers comics, let me know in the comments what you thought. And if you're already a fan, let me know who your favorite character is. It's like choosing between my children. In the meantime, remember to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, keep on henching. Gay robot husbands, gay robot husbands, gay robot husbands.